Photoshop's generative fill is not really the latest news in AI or design, so I know I'm late to the party, but I wanted to bring this video to the channel and have it be more of a tutorial than me reacting to a new feature, or just testing it for the first time like I've done in the past. Generative fill, and generative is such a hard word for me to pronounce for some reason. It uses AI technology to create new imagery based on a text prompt. And the reason why this is so mind-blowing is because it is powerful. It can expand images, so you can change the aspect ratio of an image without having to crop it. You can change details like the color of your hair or the shirt that you're wearing, adding very realistic content with shadows, reflections, like the real thing. It's available both on Adobe Firefly and Photoshop Beta, and I have used it so much for the past few weeks, and I gotta admit I don't really use Firefly that much. I prefer the Photoshop version. So I'm gonna start with the Photoshop version of this feature, and then we're gonna move on to Firefly at the end of the video. So you have the chapters here, and you can skip if you don't want to install Photoshop and you want to do it straight on the web-based version. So the first thing to know is that even if you do have Photoshop installed, you will need to have the beta version installed. It's a different version that you can find under beta apps in the Creative Cloud app. Now I'm gonna go and turn on my laptop so we can start exploring. So welcome to Photoshop Beta. It's pretty much the Photoshop that we all know and love, but with an extra thing or two here. So the first thing I will do is grab the photo that I want to edit. So this is a photo of me. I also have some landscapes, but I really like this picture, and I just wanted to look, fuller, like more nature around me and not so focused on me. So first thing I'm gonna do is unlock the background. And here they have this, which they don't have in the regular version of Photoshop, I think. Like, I'm not a huge user of Photoshop. I usually go for Illustrator. So they have the crop tool now, which is really useful because then you can just do this, for example. And now with the marquee tool, we're going to select this transparent image. We could do both sides at the same time, but I noticed that it doesn't really understand it that well if you select it together. So better to do it one at a time. So you're going to come over to edit and generative fill, or it's going to pop up here, like this little bar. And if it's not showing up, it's here in window and contextual taskbar. So I'm going to go here because it's just so much easier. So you can add a prompt, or you can just generate without any prompt, and it's just going to grab from the original image. So let's go for that one. And here on the right side is going to give you 3 options. This one I don't really like. This is a little bit better, like could be, but I think the branches are way too long, like not realistic. I think this is the better option among the 3 of them, but you can keep generating, like there's no limit to it. So let's generate again, and then we're gonna do the other side. I think I'm gonna go with this. Let's do the other side now. Yeah, here, like if you zoom in, you'll be able to tell that these are not just like houses from this little town. But let's just try it one more time. This maybe is a little bit better. I like the mountains here. I don't remember if there were such high mountains, but okay. This is one thing that you can do with generative fill, right? And Photoshop used to have a very similar tool, like I think for at least a year, if I'm not mistaken, maybe even more, which was called the content aware fill. They still have it, but it was nowhere near as good as this one. It worked really well for solid backgrounds, not really a lot of details, but this one really picks up on the details of the image and creates something brand new that looks realistic. Like if I had a filter here, that's it. I can share it to my Instagram. I don't think people are going to be looking at it for too long to understand that it was generated by AI. Now I brought in a different image, and I'm gonna do the same. I'm going to make it square, and to be more precise, I'm gonna come over to image canvas size, and I'm just going to make the width the same as the height, so it's like a square photo without having to crop it. So now you have this like white space. Let's unlock the layer, and let's generate. And now we're going to start using the prompts a little bit more because I want to change this tree here. I want to add like a beautiful cherry tree in the middle. And then I'm going to show you a trick, which is to bring the image into Lightroom. So here is what it created. Let's see what's the most realistic. This is not that bad, but let's just try it again. So now we're going to merge the layers, and I want to just clean it here a little bit. Okay, so now we cleaned it up a little bit, and I'm going to merge it again. And now I'm going to go for a huge tree here in the middle. And I'm going to go with a rectangle because I'm really lazy to draw the shape of a tree. So let's go beautiful tree. Or let's go with cherry tree. Cherry tree. I don't know what a cherry tree looks like when it's not all pink. So is this a cherry tree? Let me know in the comments. So, uh, uh, um, I like this. Not quite sure if it's a cherry tree. It changed a lot here in the background, and one of the reasons why I wanted to draw the rectangle is because one, it gives it more space to work with, but also because we can just double click this little thing here down in the corner. It's called a mask, and we can start cleaning it up a little bit. So, for example, here something was created that I really didn't like, and yeah, you see like there was no need to change here the mountains. Not quite sure I like this background here. So for me, this is just like easier to work with than if I had to draw the exact shape of the tree. The only thing for me here is that there's a huge difference, between these two trees. If you zoom in, you can definitely tell that this is fake, and you can clean it up and all of that with other tools. But what I'm gonna do maybe is just change something here. I'm going to remove this tree. So now I cleaned up this background and it looks a little bit better, right? So I'm going to keep that. I'm going to merge it again. This is so different from the original image already. Of course, that if you start to analyze it, you know that it's not a real photo. If you really want to go deep into it, you can do a lot of image treatment, and then I think it's going to look like 100% realistic. I think it really depends on the lighting and the objects that you add to a photo as well. But yeah, here we're just going for an experiment. And here inside Photoshop, we have also some adjustments we can make in terms of colors. But I like to do that. Oops, I didn't merge it. I like to do that in Lightroom. So I'm going to show you an example here, and then I'm going to move over to Lightroom with this image for us to add some filters and make it look more artsy. Like, for example, if we're going for black and white, I think it looks okay. I'm not quite sure about the shadows, but it doesn't look all that bad. So here we have lots of black and white options. If you just hover the mouse, then you can preview. You don't have to add the effect. But now we're going to export this image without any effect, and we are going to bring it to Lightroom. So Lightroom is a photo treatment, photo editing software, really, really powerful one. Let me remove my face from here. And you have what they call presets. So these are like filters that you can use in your photos. I think also videos. From what I remember, you can do videos here now, and you see the difference like right away. Let's go. They have this option here, cinematic. You can create your own. So you have all the properties here where you can change shadows and white balance, contrast, exposure, all of that. But here they have some presets created by them and by other users. And some filters also expose some of the flaws of the image. Like there was one here that I noticed, like you can tell, like this is 100% fake. So it's just a matter of experimenting. But I really like to do this, and I do this even with images that I generate with Midjourney. I usually bring them over to Lightroom and just do some editing here so it doesn't look, because Midjourney for me has that Midjourney look. So it's just a nice touch to come over here and add something to it. Another really cool thing that you can do here is just adjusting the rotation of the image, and you can kind of straighten it. It already looks like so much different than when we started. Like, let me open the original image for us to kind of compare. Let's put it side by side. Okay, so we went from this to this. Like, how crazy is that? And this was like just done in a hurry with a feature that's still in beta mode. So really excited about the future of AI. I swear, like this is one of the things that I've been having the most joy, talking about and learning about. And Adobe Firefly, the web-based version of this feature, does very similar things on a smaller scale. So I'm gonna go over there and show you a little bit of it, but I'm not gonna go into too much detail because I don't think it has all the power that Photoshop has, and some of the things would just be like very repetitive. So I'm just gonna show you now the tool on the browser with different photos as well, so you can see the difference. So now let's talk about Firefly's generative fill. So these are the features I have access to so far. I know some people have access to more of them. And as you can see here, generative fill and extend image are two separate things. Whereas in Photoshop, of course, we can do whatever we want. So here it's more about polishing the image, just changing details. You cannot really expand and extend. So let's click generate. And here you have some examples, and here you can drag and drop your own image. So I'm going to bring an image of myself. So you have a few options here. You have insert, remove. So that's, let's say I want to remove this photo here. I'm going to do that in a second. Insert is when you want to add something. And when you draw the shape, you will have the option to type your prompt. Pan is just for you to drag the image around, because here's what's going to happen. Like, it's always going to be in the center of the screen, but let's say that I want to remove all the background here, and this bar is going to be on top of my image. I don't know if my jeans are showing here or not. So, and you cannot really move this bar, so that's something I really hate. So you can come over here to pan and just bring the image a little bit up, and then you can see what it deleted. And another thing that I really don't love about is that you don't have the option to undo something. So let's say that I grabbed here now subtract and I did this, but that was not really what I was going for. I cannot just undo that action. So that kind of sucks. But yeah, here I really needed this part because I need my arm. I want my laptop here as well. So yeah, and here we can just describe what we want for the background. Here you have some options. I don't really change these. So I always keep freeform, because otherwise you need to draw the shape of the object, and I'm terrible at drawing. And here you can like guide it if you want it to be like closer to the prompt, or if it can get a little bit creative with it, and how much of the original image you want in this new version of the photo. So here I'm gonna like drag maybe to the middle, and let's go for office. Let's see what it gives us. So it's always going to give you 4 options, much like Midjourney that always gives you 4 images. And here you can see, I don't hate them. I mean, if you really look at it, it's not the original photo, but you can click more and keep generating. And the thing about Adobe Firefly that I like there are things that I don't like, but one thing that I do like is that you can generate as much as you want. There's really no limit. Here you can definitely tell the proportions aren't great. So yeah, you can just play around with it, but I like that it adds a little bit of depth, like the blurry background. It kept that feel of the original image. You can keep the image. So now let's say you want to add more stuff to this image, you can keep working on it forever, really. And then when you're ready, you can just come over to download and save it to your computer. It adds a little Adobe Firefly tag here in the corner of the image. And I think it's because it's the beta version, so you cannot use these images for commercial purposes yet. So I think that's why. I think once they launch, you will be able to download these images without a tag and use them, for commercial purposes. Another thing that very easily you can do here is change the brush settings. So, the opacity, the size. You can also, for example, select the background and then invert to select you. So after seeing Photoshop's generative fill and Adobe Fireflies, of course, Photoshop wins. It's so much better. There's so much more you can do, but that's also because it's Photoshop. There's so much you can do with Photoshop itself. But this here is a great way for you to just change little things like removing unwanted objects, adding a little detail that you wish was there. And that concludes today's video. So let me know how you like this feature. I know that there are many tools out there that have very similar capabilities, but I think when we talk about Adobe, it's such a huge name in the design industry. Every designer, or almost every designer, uses at least one of their software. And since AI is here to stay, better to have everything in one place than having to subscribe to a bunch of different things. Please don't forget to leave your like and subscribe to the channel if this is the type of content that you enjoy watching. I will see you again next week. Why does that look like a middle finger?